a lot of this knee jerk reaction, just shutting people down for the things they have to say, like that is absolutely a whole control chaos thing, right? No. You're too chaos. You're what you're saying is too much in conflict with my own understanding of how things are, that I can't even listen to it, right? That's like the cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Like, yeah, like cognitive dissonance is actually a response to the feeling of chaos.
This is Way of the Artist with Brandon Colby Cook and Evan Schulte,
Exploring the challenges of the creative call
so that you can claim your own path
and make your life a work of art. It's been a minute, Brandon. It has been a minute. I mean, it's probably been, what, I want to say like a month since we've recorded?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, not that was the plan.
No.
Not that was the plan, but, it's been kind of a chaotic, I suppose, might be a word to describe things in my life for the last little bit. I think you can maybe relate to that a little bit as well. Hence, why it's been a while since we've recorded, and it feels like it's been a lifetime. The last month has felt like a lifetime, and so we're just, we caught up a little bit, but I just wanted to dive into this conversation and just, because I feel like there's probably a lot of stuff that we've just been sitting on for a while, both of us, and just was kind of interested in seeing where this conversation would go. Although I will admit, I may have planted a word in here that I felt might be worth exploring, which is chaos. Because that's something that I've definitely been aware of and looking at recently, is in being in a situation that's at least feels chaotic. And that's part of it, I suppose, is that it's not even necessarily that it actually is chaos, but sometimes we feel like things are chaos. And even if things are chaotic, how we respond to chaos and what is the role of chaos, maybe. Like there's been a lot of stuff around that word for me. So that might be something we can explore in this conversation, but I'll finish off my opener here with just a very simple, it's good to be back. And I hope you feel the same way too, Brandon.
That sounds like a song. It's good to be back, and I hope you feel the same way too. Yeah, I do. I do. Yeah, I miss these conversations. They're important, and life is an adventure. Sometimes, you go on a bit of a ride here and there, and yeah, I think that's the longest we've probably not had a conversation for in like, I don't know how many years, maybe even since the beginning. So that was quite a break. And, I think part of these conversations, which is so good, is just us kind of shooting the shit and talking it out and saying, hey, what's going on? And, I would say to anybody out there, it's good to have a friend that you connect with on a regular basis and just talk about things in your life that, I don't know, you care about. And, and I think, I think it's important, I think it's important that we connect on that stuff. But chaos, I agree. I mean, I found that chaos, it can shut us down. That's kind of a lesson I'd say I learned over the last month about chaos. It can shut us down, and we have to often be conscious about overcoming the chaos in our lives and not letting it stop us. Although I will say, I do think that there are times where it can be okay to let the chaos be for a minute, let it sit, let it slow things down, I do think that there is, so I do think there's some room for that. I don't think it's all bad. I think sometimes chaos can let you take a moment to just gather your thoughts, collect yourself, figure out what you're going to do and how you're going to reapproach. Something that happened for me this month because, I'm on the move again, and hopefully this is the last move for a while. But I've been on an adventure for I'd say the last couple of years, and there's been a lot of moving around and a lot of big changes and big shifts and all of this. And when you are somewhat nomadic, like I've been, chaos, it becomes almost a little bit normal. You become a little bit used to things being a little bit crazy and ungrounded. And what I found in the chaos of kind of the adventure is like, wow, I really appreciate settling in somewhere and feeling like there's a certain amount of a future in that place. And that could be not just a place, that could be with a relationship or with anything. But I've found that, yeah, that steadiness, that security, that solidness of like having things kind of grounded. And well, there's two things that have come up, and the reason why I'll share both of them. So first of all, in this latest kind of search for the next place, I've had to jump through some hoops to try to find the ideal place of where I want to live. And for those of you who are in Vancouver or BC, you know what I'm talking about. Rent and just finding places and buying places and everything has all gone crazy. It's all just wild, and it's things are way overpriced. Our whole economy is all kind of in a funky little place right now. And what's happened is, the long and the short of it, and I'll just bring this into the picture because it gives a context, is that we don't have enough places for the amount of people we have, which has basically made the game skewed and given too much power to one party and not enough power to another, and it puts things in a interesting place. Anyway, I'm in the middle of it, trying to figure out how to find a new place. And so anyway, I went through this experience. I'm like, oh man, the world is unfair. This sucks. This is like, the timing is off and blah, blah, blah. And I victimed for a little bit there for a day or two. And I was like, you know what, Brandon, like, let's just sit down with yourself. Let's talk about your emotions, for a second. We're not going to hang out in them, but let's just acknowledge it. I'm fucking angry. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I'm annoyed. And I went through all the feelings, and I was like, hey, let's just feel them out. This is how you feel. You know what? There's some legitimacy to your feelings. These feelings you have, they're not out of nowhere. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that feel the way you feel right now who are around here. Okay, great. And I let myself process it. I let myself deal with it. And then I'm like, you know what? That's fine. This is how I feel today. And then I went to sleep. I sent a little prayer out that evening. I woke up this morning with a fucking powerful attitude, with it just a transformational night. Like, I don't know what I dreamt about. I don't know what happened, but between yesterday and today, I woke up with what I kind of call a fuck you attitude, which is that, you know what? You don't want me? Fuck you. You know what I mean? You know what? I don't care if I don't add up to your standard, because I'm going to add up to that standard. If that's the bar that's set, I'm not only going to meet that bar, I'm going to go so fucking far above that bar that I'm the obvious choice. And this is an attitude that's like the champion's attitude, and I learned that in sports, is you go, that team's better than us. Fuck them. I'm going to be so much better than them. I'm going to train so much harder than they train. I'm going to do everything right. And you know what? Maybe I'm not able to do it today, but you better watch out for me tomorrow or next week or next month or next year, because whatever you put in front of me, I'm not only going to match that, I'm going to best that. And this mentality, chaos can teach you to rise up and become so much better. And so, as you bring this word in, I don't know, I kind of wanted to run with it. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Chaos can kind of beat you down a little bit. It can make you feel small for a moment. But if you have that attitude of like, you know what, if that's how the game's played, then I just got to be better. I'm not going to sit here and complain and whine. I'm not going to be a loser. and a loser is a mindset, in my opinion. You're not a loser as a
Mm-hmm.
person, but you can think like a loser, and I can think like a loser, right? We can all do that, but you gotta look at chaos and be like, let me organize this shit. Let me put this together. Let me go and do something with it, and I'll figure it out. I just
Mm-hmm.
need to learn how this works. I just need to learn the game. I just need to learn what the standards are, and then I can meet them. But it was only chaos. This is the last thing I'll say. It was only chaos because I didn't understand the rules of the game. I didn't understand where the standards were at. And I showed up to the party ill prepared and unequipped. And that's
Mm-hmm.
all. And next time I arrive, I will be well prepared and fully equipped because I know what I'm up against and I know what I'm gonna meet, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's in some ways how I look at chaos. It makes you feel small for a moment, and your life's disorganized and everything's weird.
Yeah,
What are you gonna do? You know?
I mean, it
Yeah,
certainly can.
yeah.
It certainly
Well, it
can do
can,
that,
yeah. Maybe not
and
always, but yeah.
yeah, and because I think that it's chaos. I think can be a very ugly word in our culture. It's like it's this thing where like, oh, chaos, can't have that. But it's chaos as you've been talking about your own, very recent interactions with it, and thinking of some of my own move also included. Moving's always feels very chaotic, and it's very stressful and all of those things. But chaos I think, is also a teacher to us. Like it in so many different ways. Like it can, chaos can, and it sometimes can do that by breaking us down a little bit. Like it challenges. Chaos can challenge our views and our beliefs on things, our ideas about the world, or even our ideas about ourself. Because I know for myself, it was, like with having like a 1-year-old and trying to move, like it was a lot more challenging than I thought it was, than I even realized that it was going to be. And trying to do a move with a kid, and it just felt so overwhelming, and like there was zero control over anything. No matter how much you wanted to have some control over the situation, there were moments where it just felt absolutely impossible. And it was interesting just in terms of the way that I was responding to it, and the degree of agitation that I was living with on a day-to-day basis. And it was something that I was really shocked by, something that I was really even alarmed by. And I was like, is this how I respond to this kind of situation? Is this the person that I am in this situation? And so it showed me a lot about things about myself that I didn't really care for necessarily. And that, so it brought a level of introspection to myself, and like, okay, so how do I want to be able to respond to these things? How can I let go of some of this stress? How much of this is unnecessary for me to be applying to myself right now? Are the expectations that I've set upon myself creating part of this feeling of chaos? And definitely yes to all of those things in many regards. So chaos can teach you a lot. And the other thing me, Brandon, I love to point these things out, but I'm always fascinated by these dualities that exist, because control and chaos are, as with any duality, they're sides of the same coin. And that relationship between control and chaos, I mean, I think in terms of the artist and what the artist is like, that is very much always in play, because art doesn't really happen without some chaos, which we could also describe. We talk a lot about the unknown. Well, chaos is the unknown.
Yes.
Chaos is the thing that you don't control. And it's about, and you hear a lot of different artists talk about controlled chaos as being kind of the recipe for how art happens, where you're taking this thing that you don't control, which is this creative spark that you don't necessarily know where it comes from. And it can be, it's full of so many emotions and possibilities and directions. And there's a lot happening with a creative spark, but it's also very exciting, right? Like it's the excitement factor of the whole thing. And then you have to take that and you have to introduce it to this thing that you have learned to do, this thing that you have begun to develop. And hopefully on the other side of that thing, by introducing those things together, something really interesting, moving, whatever comes out of it. But yeah, I think chaos gets a bit of a bad rap. And I think that having a better relationship with chaos is something for us all to look at, because it's like, it's not an adversary. It's actually a friend, right? And even as disruptive as it can be, because and I'll leave it on one last point in the more philosophical realm, I suppose, but that whole argument, again, because it's a duality, you hear people say it's like, oh, everything's just chaos, the world's just chaos, da 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 da. And it's like, well, that's quite obviously not true, because there's no context of chaos without there being control.
Right.
There's no like, if everything's just chaos all the time, right? Well, then that would just be the way it is. We would have no sense of that being a different state or being a different kind of energy without having its opposite also in play. So, yeah, they're sides to the same coin. They're I think control and chaos are part of the whole sort of creative motion, I suppose.
Yeah, I thought actually, as you're talking there, that it's only chaos because you don't understand it, or in the moment it's happening in a way in which you don't necessarily know all the moving parts and all the pieces that are at play, right? Like,
or maybe also because you're resisting it.
Yeah, maybe
as well.
Yeah, and like that's a big part of it. Resistance is a big part of it, because sometimes you're getting told a very clear message and you just want it to be another way, and then it feels like chaos because you're not getting what you want. And I am a firm believer, like, that things, they work out for a reason, and they play out for reasons that are so beyond your awareness. And you do, given enough time, you tend to see why they worked out the way they worked out. But in the moment, when you're in the middle of it, it's very difficult. And some people don't like this word, man, but I'll throw it in there. It's like faith, man. You got to have a little bit of faith, like, because the thing is like, look, if you want to do anything great in your life, you got to have a little bit of faith. You just have to have a little bit, at least, because if you don't have any faith, man, you'll never go for anything great. You'll never do anything big or bold or risky or out there in the unknown, and you'll always play small. And that's why I think faith is such an important thing. Sometimes it's faith in, God, and sometimes it's faith in just yourself, and sometimes it's faith in the universe, and sometimes it's whatever in the project that you're doing, that it'll work out, that you'll find a way, that you'll figure it out, that the right people will show up at the right time, and the right things will happen when they need to, and you'll never be forsaken. These types of things are so important. And if you have that belief, you are going to be willing to try things that most people would think were crazy. But you need a little crazy to do great things. You need a little bit of crazy, and it's only crazy to the people who have no faith, and whatever that might be. But, I look at my life and I try to remind myself when I'm in a place of chaos, it's like, man, it always, you always find a way. And there's, and I don't think it's about just taking stupid risks or being careless. I do think you want to be mindful and considerate. And we've had these conversations before, but you might not understand the chaos that's around you. But if you do good things and you put good things in motion, the they tend to have an impact later. You never know what you're doing today. The seeds you plant today, you never know the impact that they'll have tomorrow. And that's why, if you think the world is forsaking you, if you think the world is letting you down, look at your behavior from 6 months ago and 6 years ago, several years ago, whatever it was. Like, look back and you'll start to see that you forsaked you. You're the one that took the easy road. You're the one that did the thing that planted the weed or the bad seed that you're reaping now. You reap what you sow, right? So that's why, every day, try to do the kind thing. Try to go out of your way, walk the extra mile, help somebody out, be good to people, be kind when you don't have to be kind. Try to have compassion for somebody. It's really hard to have compassion for. There might be a day where you need someone to have compassion for you when it's really hard to have compassion for you. And if you start planting these seeds today, you're going to find out that on the back end, down the road, when you really need it, those seeds will have grown and you won't even have noticed. And all of a sudden you'll be in the garden of this wonderful thing you planted, and boom. And that's what faith really is. It's that I'm out here and I'm trying to do good things, and sometimes people take advantage of me, and sometimes it doesn't always work out, and sometimes I get lied to, and sometimes I get betrayed, and sometimes these things happen. But I'm out here and I'm doing these good things and I'm planting these seeds and I'm trying, man. I'm fucking trying. And then when you need it, all those seeds that you planted, they come back around and they're there and people, and it's not just the things you did, it's the person you are. Because there's a quality that starts to come out of a person when they continually be kind and giving and caring, and people see that in you and they acknowledge that in you. And we all admire that. So if you go for your dreams, we all admire that, I believe. And I think what happens is we all want to do that. So when we see someone out there that's doing that, we look at them and we go, you know what? I want to help them do it. And yeah, of course, there's going to be those jealous, envious people and all of those types around, right? But, it only takes one person to change your whole life. It only takes one person to help you. Often that person's you, but sometimes it's someone else that just comes in like an angel and they just help you out, right? And that's all you needed. And when I teach storytelling, Evan, I'm just going to share one more thing. I teach storytelling, and one of the big lessons in my classes, and I'll give you guys this for free. If you're writing a story or you're making a movie or you're doing something like that, there's always a moment where your character should hit, and it's called the rock bottom. And you've probably heard of this term before, the rock bottom moment. But in the rock bottom moment, which I've been through a number of times, the character or the person in real life, whatever it might be, is needs to experience it. The audience watching them needs to experience it as though, what are they going to do? They have no chance. It is over. Like, it needs to feel like it is over. And that's when you have faith that, you look and you're like, I'm going to hang in there. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to just keep going. And let's just see. And then I call it the hand of God moment. And it's the step that somehow appears out of nowhere, which allows you to begin the climb out of the deep, dark valley that you're in of rock bottom. And then you climb. And I always tell my clients, you climb to the climax of your life. Win or lose, whatever happens at that climatic moment, you you've won already, because you rose from the fucking ashes to the climax, to the top, to the peak of whatever that was supposed to be. And that's, you start to see chaos is ultimately organized if you have faith, right? Mm-hmm. When you're in the unknown, when you're in that lost space, right? There's, and you just gotta believe that there's a step. And sometimes it's one you somehow managed to plant in your past and it showed up for you, or sometimes it's just the right person at the right time comes along and they just give you a hand when no one else would. And you decide to take that hand. But if you don't believe the hand's there and you don't believe the steps there, then you'll never look for it and you'll never take it. And some people don't. And that in my world is a tragedy. And in life, everything is either a tragedy or it's a comedy. Because you laugh when you get out of this bullshit that you find yourself in if you find the step or get the hand. But it's a tragedy because you never found why that deep, dark pit was actually so valuable for you. That's a tragedy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember, like this whole thing of faith, and I'm realizing that this has a lot to do with it. Some years ago, when I did, not knowing what I had gotten myself into, but a very worthwhile thing, I did a Course in Miracles. For anyone who's familiar with that, and it's probably like, oh yeah, like probably nodding their head, or they think it's a bunch of hooey nonsense, whatever you think. I found it useful, but there used to be, you would basically every day there was like a new lesson, I guess, lesson / like almost like a mantra that you would take with yourself for the day, something that you would try and just, you say it to yourself a few times a day, and the goal of it, as I understand, was to really just point out, help you recognize patterns in your thoughts and in your behaviors and stuff. And one of the ones that really stuck out for me in there, and it's probably repeated a few times, but it was like, I do not know what this is for. And I forget about this one, but like whenever I remember, I was like, oh, that's a good one to just keep in the repertoire. Because there are moments where there's something that's going on in your life that you would probably never ask for or ask to have happen. That is now becoming a part of your story. It's becoming a part of your life story. And the words, I do not know what this is for, can really add a lot of perspective and even comfort when you might really need it as well. But to me, that's a statement of faith, right? It's a statement of faith in the thing that is happening, right? In the face of basically chaos, right? Some kind of chaos is happening in front of me. It's challenging some part of me or part of my life. And to be able to say, I do not know what this is for, kind of gives you like a little bit of distance from the thing. Because I think part of the problem with chaos and why it can be so difficult is like, it's like you're just in it, and it feels like you're just being like tossed around, like you're inside of a dryer or something like that, and you're just getting whipped around. And it's like, to say, I do not know what this is for, is almost like just getting yourself out of the dryer for a second, getting yourself out of that tumbling kind of thing, even if just for a moment, right? And maybe get some clarity, but it's a faith thing, that almost asks you, it's like, okay, well, you don't know what this is for. This thing is happening, but what if it was for something positive? What if this was all happening for something good? What might be the message in this mess? Right? And you might discover the lesson that is there. It doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be any more happy about it, but there might be a new place that you can find in yourself with that, right? Some sense of resolve, some sense of even openness and curiosity about what's happening, to just be like, oh, okay, this all seems to be happening for this reason. I mean, I know I definitely can recognize this from this move that me and my wife and our little son are going through. Like, it was so intense, not only because of having a small child in the middle of a move, but also because, we're moving into a tiny house that, is like, we're not going to be able to fit so much of our stuff, and having to like really come to terms with the amount of stuff that we have, and understanding that, like, there's all of these things that have these little things that have happened along the way that have felt so overwhelming, that, but I can recognize that there's an element to which it has really been showing me how much I want to simplify so many things in my life, how much I want to really purge myself of materials and materialism and all of these things, because I'm like, this is such a burden. Like, all of this stuff is such a burden, and knowing that where we have to go and what we have to do with all of this stuff, it's that feeling, that overwhelm and that stress and that chaos is really just driving home sort of how painful it can actually be, how painful stuff can actually be in your life, which is something that I don't think that, like, I've never even put it into terms like that, even for myself, until this moment, but just how painful your stuff can be on your life.
Yeah, totally. Well, being as nomadic as I've been in the last couple of years, big moves, big transitions, big changes. Yeah, stuff is like, it's like an anchor, and it ties you to a place, and you feel, well, I should say I feel, but I imagine it would be similar for anyone, is you feel like you can't really leave it, because oh, I have to move this stuff. I got to figure that out. I got to do this. And the openness to change becomes more and more difficult and more complicated. And there's a lot of practice and detachment and letting go, and trusting that the right things will come back into your life when you need them, and that sometimes things have to go, and this might be the only way you'll ever let them go. And from all the projects and productions that I did throughout my career as a filmmaker and a producer, man, like, one day I went through all my files and everything, and I was like, I cleared out half of them, and I'd just been lugging this stuff around with me, where I've been going. And I was just like, you know what? I don't need it. I don't need this. And, and there were some projects where, like, they were very important to me, and, there was like keepsakes and types of things that came with them. And, I'm very proud of my film career and a lot of the stuff that I did, especially the independent stuff that, the stuff that really no one would really know about but me and the people that worked on them, the stuff that almost kind of fades into oblivion over time, but they were so important in your life. And, and letting, what part of that can I let go, and what part of that do I keep? These types of decisions you make. And, and if it's going to have space in my life, it should really be something I actually value. I shouldn't be hanging on to something that I don't really need and doesn't, because, like, what am I after here? What am I trying to keep here? I'll admit something, actually, now that I think of it. Early on in my film career, I kept a lot of stuff almost because I wanted to prove, I think, to somebody that I had a career. Because I feel like as actors and filmmakers and writers, when we get a project, it's such a big deal, especially early on in your career. And it's just like, I fucking booked something. They fucking chose me. I got hired. They want me, and that's such a big deal. And, and and then maybe you feel real proud of a film you did, but maybe it didn't really get that notoriety or that acclaim or whatever, but it was like it mattered, and you don't want to let it go, and so stuff like that. But
Mm.
I was thinking about one thing you said in particular was that you're going to get a message, and it doesn't mean you're going to like it.
Yeah.
That really hit home for me, because I feel like that's the thing, is like sometimes we think, oh, I'm going to get this message and then it all makes sense and I'll be happy. And it's like, no, sometimes you're going to get a message that you don't want to hear, but you need to hear it, but you're not going to like it.
Hey everybody, this is Evan, and this episode is brought to you by my book. Yes, I recently released a book called The Actor's Awakening: Connecting Spirituality to Craft. Expand yourself as an actor and your craft through a spiritual perspective. Take a journey that will explore universal philosophies and insights to help you understand human nature in a profound way, and develop practices to take your work to another level. Again, that's The Actor's Awakening: Connecting Spirituality to Craft. Available on Kindle and paperback on Amazon. And as always, if you like the show, please subscribe.
An example, you need to end that relationship. That's a bad, toxic relationship, friendship, romantic, whatever, parent. This is not good for you. And you don't like that message. And the message is loud and clear, coming straight through on a speakerphone. It's just like amplified, and you still don't want to hear it. And you're getting it loud and clear, and you're still like, nope, can't be that message. I don't want that message, and sometimes with the chaos is so simple. If you just listened to the message that is being broadcasted to you, right? That you need to change, you need to do the thing, you need to get rid of the thing or go for the thing or whatever it might be. But I do think that we keep chaos. And here's the last thing I'll say, because I don't want to forget this one other point. I actually also find that when we don't have enough chaos in our lives by going after the things that are in our heart, we create bullshit chaos in our life to make it more interesting. And I see this with people. Sometimes they create drama in their life. And I'll tell you, when you start going after your goals and your dreams, you don't have any time for that nonsense. And when people start creating drama and bullshit in your life, you're like, hey, this isn't working, because I got enough fucking challenges. I don't need you causing drama in my life. You know what I mean? And the people that stay are the ones that respect and respond to that well. And the ones that leave are the ones that don't. And, if you're creating chaos in your life, it means it's a symptom, I believe, of you not going after what actually matters. And you're bored because you're playing it too safe and you're playing it too small.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, there's people that I've met and known in my life where I've seen that whole thing play out, where I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking about right now? Like, it's like you can see the something being made out of nothing.
Yes.
And it's because it's interesting, because I'm sure that we bring a psychologist on the show, and they can maybe verify if what I'm saying has any weight to it. But it's like, I think that it's almost, people create this kind of chaos because it's a way of confronting the chaos that they truly don't have any control over. They create it so that they feel control over the chaos, because they feel like they're participating in it somehow. So it's like, okay, stir up some drama, stir up some shit, because at least I stirred it up, and it's in some way to, I think, maybe confront the chaos of the big questions. And something in what you said as well made me realize, like, oh yeah, chaos is actually the truth teller.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Isn't that kind of a weird thing there? Like, chaos is kind of a truth teller.
Totally.
Because it's the whole thing of the message. You might not like the message right now. Later on, you'll be happy you heard it.
I like to think of it too, the truth teller, another term you could call it, like the loving, the loving critic. The one who's going to tell you, like, hey, you know what? You're being lazy. You're sitting on your ass. There's more to you than you're giving yourself credit for. And you don't like to hear that. Stop doing the thing you're doing that's not good for you. and you don't like that person because they're rocking your comfort, but really they're the one that loves you. They're the, they're the parent, the mentor, the guide that's saying like, put the bad thing down and do the good thing. And that's the truth. And that's the real love, right? But the truth teller sometimes comes with an uncomfortable truth. They come with something that you need to hear, but you don't
Yeah.
want to hear. And it
And I
creates
think,
chaos in your life because you can't keep the comfort anymore if
and
you
I think,
listen. Yeah.
and I think that that's maybe like a way in which we can understand the good chaos from the bad chaos.
Right. Totally.
Because the bad chaos is just turning shit up.
Yes.
In a way. Like it's really almost completely maniacal, and whereas there's a kind of chaos that can happen in your life when you're being presented with a truth, and that chaos felt because because of what it's challenging, right? It's challenging that thing that you've known, that you felt that you've known for all the time. Like, and this is the thing, is that like anytime you have an interaction with another person, you are dealing with a little bit of chaos.
Totally. Yeah.
Like another person enters into your life, right? And like we are right now, we're having a conversation. There's a little bit of chaos that's going on right now because I don't really know what you're going to say, right? I don't really know what's going to happen next, right? And it's interesting. It's like, it makes me think of the state of conversation in our world right now, which, I am optimistic that we are heading back to a place where people can have respectful exchanges of ideas and differ on things. But, that's a lot of this knee-jerk reaction, just shutting people down for the things they have to say. Like that is absolutely a whole control chaos thing, right? No. You're too chaos. You're what you're saying is too much in conflict with my own understanding of how things are, that I can't even listen to it, right? That's like the cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Like, yeah, like cognitive dissonance is actually a response to the feeling of chaos. Right. And yeah. Because we don't like it. Because again, we have such a terrible relationship for the most part to chaos. Like we're very much like, no, we must control everything. We must, and to control things, it means we have to manipulate. It means we have to do all kinds of things. We have to be in denial of things. Like there's all kinds of shit that does to us. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with it, but there's just, I'm this whole thing of chaos as the truth teller, right? And to me, again, I'll just reiterate, I think that it's important for us to learn how to distinguish it. I can't say that I know how to do this because I'm just sort of, talking this out for the first time myself here with you, but there is this difference between chaos that's just really kind of wild and destructive versus the chaos that is truth telling and creative.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's this theme that actually gets played around with quite a bit. And the thing that jumps to my mind as far as like things that there's almost no better sort of characterization of chaos in modern storytelling than perhaps the Joker, right? Especially the way in which the most recent sort of portrayals like Heath Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix, Jared Leto. We'll just be looking at those two for the moment. But there's something particularly Heath Ledger, like he was just chaos, like pure chaos. And there's something about that figure in which, there's something so attractive and seductive because there is something that in what he's saying that is true, right? There's something like, I'm trying to remember, it's been a while since I've watched them, but there was something about what he was doing. He's like, he basically was like, if we strip these people down to whatever, it's like they're animals, they'll eat each other. And it's like, in a way, it's like, yeah, he's introducing chaos into these everyone's assumptions of control, right? And he's this embodiment. However, he's also just this complete destructive force. He's not really trying to create anything, right? He's just trying to fuck shit up all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's an element to which he's wrong at the end. Like towards the end of the movie, he discovers that he's wrong. Nobody's willing to hit the trigger to blow up the other boat.
Right.
Right. No one's willing to do it because it isn't just chaos, right? There is something that's gluing people together. There is something that's keeping this whole thing from going completely off the rails. And in response to that, he was just going to blow up one of the boats anyhow, right? Because that was what he had. In a way,
yeah,
the people not detonating the boat was chaos to him.
Right.
It was introducing a chaos to his own control, which was, he thought this was exactly how this was going to play out.
Yeah.
These people were going to kill each other. And when they didn't, he had to make, like, he couldn't process that.
Right.
Sorry. Well, thank you for letting me go on that rant. I was just like, I've got to watch The Dark Knight again.
There's, it's the Heath Ledger one and the Joaquin Phoenix Joker, like between those two. The Joaquin Phoenix gives you a little bit more of the underbelly of where he came from, which is interesting because, there is a certain amount of, when something's built poorly, it's built, or it's been corrupted or poisoned or soured or whatever. It's rotten. There's something about chaos which is so good about being the thing that needs to dismantle a rotten thing. It's the destruction and creation, right? Like, as artists, we don't always talk about destruction. We tend to focus more on the creation side of things, but destruction is very much a part of the creative process. And if you don't believe me, try writing a screenplay, because you gotta, you're gonna have to rewrite. If you really want to do it well, you're gonna have to reevaluate. You might have to take away scenes that you liked. You might have to. There's a lot of stuff. You might have to erase entire characters, write them again, do different things, right? So there's all sorts of stuff that's somewhat destructive to the creative process, but destruction creates room for the creativity in a lot of ways. And I was thinking about this, bad chaos, good chaos, right? Like, and I think it's very important to distinguish what we're talking about when we're saying bad chaos, because to me, bad chaos is manufactured chaos. It's not things that lead to destruction. That doesn't make it bad chaos. That could be good chaos. Sometimes it's a good thing when things get destroyed. Sometimes it's a bad thing. Sometimes it's a thing and it has good and bad and it's a little bit gray, right? But that bad destruction, and if you look at art, bad art is manufactured, just like chaos. And I think the big thing about chaos is that, if you really truly want to write a screenplay, for example, and I'm sure it works the same for acting, you could talk about this to some degree for filmmaking and all these other things, painting and whatever, there has to be a certain amount of you letting it have a bit of a life of its own.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know when it will begin to take its own life, like when it will begin to go from you were in control and all of a sudden you're not in control, and that transformation and that transition from I got this to whoa, I'm just keeping up. But that's really what artists are after, right? We're like after that flow state, they call it, that place of like, wow, man, like I just dropped in, and then you just want to get back, and I think the thing about chaos is like, if you look at manufactured art or manufactured chaos, there's a falseness to it. It's not real. And it's almost like when I think of like manufactured chaos, I always think of like high school, where people are making a big deal out of nothing, right? And it's like maybe for them, it's real. Maybe for some people in high school, it's real. But then there are those some people, they're just shit disturbers. They're just trying to, you know, they're just trying to create something out of nothing. They want some drama in their life or whatever, or they're talking about somebody behind their back when they probably shouldn't, and it creates drama and it creates someone gets hurt. And, that's all bullshit. You don't need to do that. None of that stuff needs to happen. That's all manufactured nonsense. Mm-hmm. But when you are the person who's not manufacturing it, sometimes you're dealing with people who are, and they're manufacturing it doesn't necessarily make it bad for you. It's not good that it's there. I'm not saying that, but you learn to respond and deal with people that are false. And chaos is interesting, right? Because it some ways helps you know who the toxic people are. And I'm not saying that the person is toxic necessarily, like they're just a toxic person, but they're in a toxic energy, they're in a toxic wave, they're in a toxic place, and they're bringing that to the table. And like, Helen Mirren, I think it was, said like the one thing she would have done more of is tell more people to fuck off. I think it was her who said that. Either way, I agree with that. If I could tell my younger self to do one thing more, I would have told more people to fuck off. More people who brought their manufactured drama bullshit into my life, I would have said, just fuck off. Like, I'm done with you. I would have moved away, or I would have pushed them out, or I would have done something, but I never would have sat around in it. And I would have moved on with my life, and I would have got on with it, and I would have continued on bringing the good people who didn't want to bring the drama and the nonsense to my life. Because when you're after something, you don't need the extra drama. You don't need that extra bullshit in your life. And these people, in the artist's way, she talks about them as, what does she call them? She calls them
blocked creatives.
Yeah, but crazy makers.
Oh, crazy makers. Yeah.
Crazy makers, which is such a great term for manufactured chaos. Get all the fucking crazy makers out of your life. And if they are a crazy maker and you really care about them and you really like them, you owe it to them to tell them the truth. You bring drama to my life. This is how you do it. A, B, C, D, all the way up to Z. I don't care how many things. And you tell them, you go straight to them, you say, you talk behind people's back. I don't like it. You come in here, you come into my life, you do this shit. I don't like it. We don't need this. Stop doing it. You tell them that. And you say, listen, I get it. We don't have to connect over this stuff. We can connect over other stuff. You're making my life crazy. You're bringing in nonsense. I played a part. I'm not blaming you. I talked behind other people's backs with you, whatever you did, however you joined in with the crazy maker. Take ownership. Don't blame them. Tell them, hey, this is how I played a part in the crazy making. We crazy made. Let's stop that. I'm tired of it. I'm over it. I'm on to a new chapter in my life. I'm moving on. I see the bad part of that, and I got other things to do. Here's the thing, people, and I'm speaking to the audience for a second here, because like I speak to my younger self, and I would say it to my younger self as I'd say it to all of you. If you're allowing a crazy maker in your life, they are robbing you, even unintentionally. They are robbing you of your greatness. They are robbing you of your brilliance. They are robbing you of your creativity. They are stealing your good energy, and they are getting you to use it for things that give you nothing. Mm-hmm. And the sooner you realize that lesson, the better your life will be. I promise you that. I promise you that. So if you really are their friend, you will help them stop being crazy makers. And if they don't want to stop, you say, listen, this is not bye forever, but this is bye for now. Mm-hmm. And when you figure that shit out, you're going to see that your trajectory changes and theirs doesn't. And they're going to look at you one day and you're going to be way on the fucking hill that they want to be. And they're going to come back to you and say, hey, you know what? Let's be friends again. And they will come back, because the proof's in the fucking pudding, and chaos. I mean, this is such a great talk, Evan. Like I think we're really working through a point we have never really had a chance to decipher, because chaos is such a valuable part of art,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's not take all. It's let's get the best cuts of it and let's get rid of the scraps, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
but we need to learn, I think, as creatives, we need to learn to embrace chaos, but also have boundaries with chaos. That's kind of what I'm getting from this talk, and I'm looking at it in my life. And also, I would say one other thing. I would say it would be valuable for me to truly audit how I respond to chaos,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes I'm putting up with stuff I shouldn't be putting up with. And sometimes I'm victimizing myself to truth tellers, to truth moments, to things that are giving me a good message. And I need to
Yeah.
get past that quicker. Like a day is not so bad. Fine. I was a little bit of a wimp for a day. Fine. I felt some feelings. Fine. But like even that, like I'd like that to be an hour, not a day,
Yeah.
you know? So maybe I can get there, right? Maybe it can be a minute or 10 minutes, right? But like, and maybe that's the best I can do. But you know what? I think you aspire to get manufactured drama out of your life, and the real drama of like going after what you want, that real character building drama. Yeah, I'm okay with that. That's going to make me better. That's going to teach me lessons. That's fine, you know,
Yeah.
and recognize I'm not in control of it all. And that's okay. That's part of this game, right?
Yeah, I think that's sort of that thing of like, what's the message in the mess? If you can have
Yeah.
the presence of mind to ask that question of yourself in the midst of feeling that because that feeling of chaos, very often comes with stress and all that stuff. But if you can have that moment where you can yeah, really be mindful about the thing that's happening and sort of ask that question, I think that it can definitely help you to start deciphering what the thing is that's happening. And because another thing is, chaos is also change. We can also
Yes.
like look at it in that way too. Chaos is change. Without a little bit of chaos, there is no change. Otherwise, things would just be the same all the time, and that would be super boring. But there's something about, yeah, this whole thing of the kind of chaos that's being brought to you. Like, is it a good friend who's just confronting you with some kind of thing that you've had a blinder to? Well, that's probably a good kind of chaos, like, especially like where if you trust the place where it's coming from and whatever, like there's something there, as opposed to, some person in your life who comes and says like, oh, did you hear what this person said about you? It's
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
what's the message in the mess here? Oh, maybe that you're just a crazy maker,
Yeah.
as you're saying, right? Because like, what's the point in you telling me something like that, right? What's
Good question to always ask. What
like,
do you going for here? What's your point in this?
yeah, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
Right? Because, and it's interesting to me, I think that it might be, like, because we're probably reaching about the end of this one, but I've just been, a thought that's been going in my head is how much people who are, or we'll just say bad chaos, is coming from people who are actually looking to control you. Right? Like, I would think that this is actually something that a lot of, like types like cult leaders or, just like, or sociopathic people do, right? It's just like they present you with a kind of chaos to disrupt your worldview, and it's all in an effort to control you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like to pull the rug out from underneath you and then be this person who's giving you a solution, right? It's like,
there to
you know
hold
what
you
you
up.
should, you know what you should do? You should do this, right? And it's like, yeah, and it's like, because that's often what comes from those crazy makers.
Totally.
Right? And it's just like, and why people do that, like, I don't want to I won't dive too much into it. Like maybe it is that whole thing of it
Another
gives
talk.
people some
We'll get
sense of
into it
control.
another talk because that's
Yeah,
psychology and that's
that's
a whole
that. Yeah,
other thing.
well beyond our pay grade on
Yeah.
this one, but it's an interesting thing to think about. But yeah,
Totally.
chaos is a form of change, and change is something that can be very difficult, but is also so necessary
Mm-hmm.
for us as human beings to to grow and to evolve. And yeah, I'll just leave it at
Yeah, I
that.
like it, man. I like it. And yeah, we'll wrap it up. I will say this on that change note, because I feel like you brought in a really good element at the end there, was just ask yourself, could this change be good for me? Or would this change be bad for me? Not how I would feel, but like for me as a person, like,
Mm-hmm.
and in what ways would it maybe be good, if it's uncomfortable? Because I don't think that we should be always trying to go for comfort all the time in our lives. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with comfort. I think having a little bit of comfort, a little safety, security, all that stuff's really good. But if your whole life is just that, then, maybe it is important that you branch out a little bit and reach a little bit, right? So, but these are questions. Some of this stuff's personal. You have to figure it out for yourself. There's no blanket statement we can say, oh, this is good and that's bad. But,
Mm-hmm.
we laid out some context. Okay. Hey, so the beer that I'm having, and I'm always excited when I have these, Evan, is a cream ale.
Oh,
It's a
nice.
cream ale. And this is Mount Begbie Brewing, which is in Revelstoke, which I don't think I've ever had one of theirs. And I saw they had a cream ale come up, and it is tasty. The Begbie cream ale. Anyway, I definitely recommend it. It's really beautiful can. Um, it's got like a hiker on the edge of a mountain looking at a cliff, and it's got these very like nature, like brown nature gold colors to it. The
Nice. Can
can
I
or
see the can?
whatever.
I mean, people at
Yeah,
home
yeah.
won't be able. Oh,
It's
nice.
very pretty. Anyway, really nice beer. A nice smooth cream ale, easy and just they don't I don't find that all the breweries do them very often. So when I find them, I'm always kind of excited. They're actually kind of, when they're done right, they're actually one of my favorite kinds of beers,
Yeah.
the cream ale. So yeah, anyway, that's what I'm having, and it's been great, this whole conversation.
Yeah, I recently just had a cream ale. I was at a local brewery close to where I live. They had a cream ale, and I was like, "What? I haven't seen a cream ale
Yeah.
in a long time." It was fantastic. That was from Batch 44 in Sechelt, British
Nice.
Columbia. But that's not what I'm drinking today. I am drinking the Vancouver Island Brewing Mystic Haze Pale Ale, and it's great. It's like a hazy pale ale. It's not an IPA. It's just a hazy pale ale, and it's a little bit lighter. It's 4.5%, but it's a great summer beer. And in terms of artwork, like it's a beautiful.
Oh yeah, he's got a little animal on there. What kind
Yeah,
of animal?
it's got a wolf. It's got a couple of wolves on there,
Nice.
and up in the mountains by the ocean, very very Pacific Northwest type of image with and the colors too, like the purples and the magentas. The magentas, Brandon.
The magentas.
And with that, I will leave it. But it's great. This is the last one I've had of this pack that I got a little while ago, and it's really tasty.
Nice.
Really tasty, perfect kind of summer beer. So, yeah. All right.
That's cool, man. Well, wrapping it up. I don't know. Do you have final thoughts first, or should I go first?
If
What are you
you've
feeling?
got something, I don't have anything that's
Okay.
popping into mind immediately.
I don't either, but I'm gonna wing it.
Do we
so
ever
what
do
I've-
anything else?
Yeah. What I'm going to take from this conversation is I do think we've covered a few things. One thing that I'm going to take away is the good chaos, bad chaos, I think is a good kind of thing to decipher, and if I'm getting caught in drama or I see drama coming up that's really like just doesn't matter, it's nothing. I'm going to be like, look, this is not an issue. I'm not getting into it. I don't care. I'm not getting sucked down that road. I feel like I'm pretty good about that these days, but I'm sure it can pop up every now and then. And I can think of specific times where it did a little bit. So I'll be more on the ball about that. And I think everybody could be. That's one thing I'll take away. Another thing I'm taking away is I would say that as an artist and just as a person living my life, is that I think what I can walk away from this conversation and kind of embrace a little bit is that if there's a little bit of chaos in my life, I'm going to look at that more as a good thing. Because I think I've been looking at it a little bit as a negative. And I'm going to kind of be like, great, if this chaos is coming up and I'm after something, then that's probably good. It probably means I'm pushing myself a little bit out of my control, a little bit out of my comfort zone. And this probably means I'm reaching a little bit. It means I'm I'm not like I'm on the edge a little bit of my life. I'm not just playing it so safe. So I'm going to kind of pat myself in the back a little bit for finding a little bit of chaos by pushing myself. And I'm also, and you said one thing, and this was my third takeaway that I think was really important for me, is I'm really going to try to look at the message and not need to like it so much. Because I do think I'm after that a lot. I think I'm a little bit like, well, what's the message? What's the good thing here? And it's like the silver lining. And it's like, no, maybe the message is just like, don't do that. Stop doing that. You're going down the wrong path, or, or this thing you like isn't actually good for you. And maybe you should like stop that, like, and maybe sometimes the message is like a good thing, but like, I think I'm going to kind of be a little bit less critical of the message and be a little bit more open to just being like, whatever the message is, it's helping me. It's giving me something good. And sometimes I don't like the message I'm getting, the truth teller that's giving me the loving criticism, but maybe the loving criticism is just what I need right now. And maybe I'm just going to say thank you and try to appreciate it. And even if I don't feel great about it, I'll try to like not victimize myself about sometimes hearing something or getting a message back I don't necessarily want to get. So yeah, that's kind of, those are kind of my takeaways from this. And yeah, man, it was a lot of fun. So I'm excited to hear what you take away and what your thoughts are.
Yeah, this was a fantastic return for me in terms of like, yeah, in terms of having a longer hiatus than anticipated and coming back at it. This turned out to be a very nice, rich one that I couldn't have anticipated some of the discoveries and things that came along the way. And yeah, for me, it's like this, everything is relationship, as you know, Brandon, and as we've discussed on this before. And I think so much of this has been about our relationship with chaos and hopefully getting to know chaos a little bit better. And for me, it really is like recognize chaos as the truth teller. The truth teller has come to deliver me a message of some kind. I said, I there's a good chance I won't be happy about it in the moment, but I will be happy about it eventually. And I don't necessarily know what this is for, but what is, I can start with that question. It's like, what is the message in the mess? What is the message in the chaos? Right? To help me at least identify, whether it's a good chaos or a bad chaos, as we've touched on a little bit here. There's probably a lot more to be mined in that whole thing and understood. But, I think that even if you can ask that question in the face of bad chaos, it's like, well, what's the message in this? It's like, oh, the message is that like, you're a fucking crazy maker and I need to either tell you that, or I need to remove you from my life, or whatever it is,
or remove myself from your
remove
life.
myself from this situation.
Yeah.
Right. But it's that disruptive force that confronts our, I guess in many ways, it's like it confronts our illusions of control, our illusions about things. And in many ways, that's what the truth teller does. It's just like, hey, you have some illusions about things. You have some beliefs and ideas about things that actually probably need some re-examination, right? because I'm introducing you with a new idea. I'm introducing you with a new thought. How will you respond to that? Right? And that's the thing that I'm always trying to get better. How do I respond to the chaos? And yeah, I'm going to try better to take that moment to ask some of these questions that we've been talking about in the face of it, because there's a lot of not only do I think that we can prevent ourselves from unnecessary suffering, I think by getting to those questions quicker, by recognizing it and making ourselves more aware of what's happening sooner, asking the questions and starting to understand the thing that's being presented to us, the opportunity that's being presented to us, the lesson that's being presented in the chaos, and not only, from the pragmatic side of being able to just not have to be sitting in that longer than necessary, but the opportunity for us to grow and change, because that's exactly what chaos is asking. Thank you for listening in on our conversation today. We hope you found something helpful that you can carry forward with you. Head over to our website, wayoftheartist.com, for more free exclusive material and learn about the show. If you haven't already, please support us by subscribing to the show, sharing it with people you know, and keeping compassionate, creative conversation going.